Playing for Barcelona is just objectively hard, and to come in during preseason and impress Xavi so much to actually become a starter is incredible. So Fermin Lopez has actually had the incredible start to the season that pretty much no one expected, being Xavi's go-to player after the injuries of Frankie de Jong and Pedri, and now even Gavi. But what exactly does Xavi see in him, and what is his potential as a player, and does he really have a place in this team when players like Gavi and players like Pedri fully come back? And of course, if you do enjoy this kind of video, please like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel grow. But Fermin Lopez was one of the most random stars of the preseason. He came from Linares Deportivo from the 3rd division of Spanish football, and of course he did do an incredible job during preseason, scoring like 12 goals and being a presence in the box. But if we look at the reports from coaches in his younger years, they really did predict this level of prominence. Similar to Lionel Messi, he relied on growth treatment to increase height. Mentioning this in an interview, he said, quote, "Fermin Lopez, when did I start to grow in height? I started to grow during quarantine. I think I grew 8 or 10 centimeters at a time, and in Linares too. That's where I grew into what I am now." Remember, he's 20 right now, which means that at the age of 16 to 17, he was actually really small for his age. This was also the main reason he wasn't chosen to represent any of the higher levels of the Spanish football, or really any Spanish youth teams in his entire career. Because talking about purely his talent, he was always seen as one of La Masia's very best. His coaches even said that, quote, "Despite completing preseason with the club's second team in his first year of men's football, Fermin was one of the weakest players in the squad." And by weakness, they don't mean his technical ability, they mean his physical ability. His physique had not fully developed, and the club told him he was not going to have the right number of minutes to boost his development. This proved to be the main problem with the player. Rather than struggles with technicality or mentality, as we've seen with players like Riqui Puig, it was about physique. And that's the thing about an academy like La Masia. Even if there are clear struggles with growth, the academy will persist. And this is one of the main factors that separate this academy from the rest. And this is one of the main things that Johan Cruyff instilled when he came into Barcelona. But the important thing that we have to analyze today is, what does Xavi see in Fermin Lopez? Especially something that has allowed him to immediately come into the first team after preseason. This X factor is his profile. Fermin has 2 qualities that really separate him from other players. The first of this being his box movement. Think about the last time Barca was able to produce a midfield player who can make runs in the box and have an attacking threat. Pedri is just not that player. He's much more of a controller, more like Iniesta. And Gavi, once again, is not that player either, because he's much more of a box-to-box profile. All of these young players who have unique talents that separate them are excellent, but they don't have that X factor in and outside the box. They're almost incapable of producing shots from far out of any value, and this trait as a whole is not something that we've been able to really have since the man himself, Ivan Rakitic, and we know how much Xavi values this trait, as he's mentioned his importance of this quality several times in several interviews. If you guys actually go back to last year, Pedri was given the target of scoring 10 goals last season. And if you remember Frankie de Jong, really early on in Xavi's tenure, he actually said right after that goal that he scored against Napoli,
"This already a long time, and also family and friends are always saying to me, you need to shoot more." And
Xavi clearly values this from his interiors. And clearly no one's really been able to produce this very consistently. But if we have one player that can do it, it's Fermin Lopez. Look against that game against Shakhtar, he hit the crossbar and the sidebar multiple times. Against Real Madrid, he was a constant threat, always shooting, always testing Arrizabalaga. And he's just one of those players that is just a constant threat for teams. You can never really go back. You can never really be like, okay, well, we have in this position and we can lock him down, because he's effective everywhere on the pitch. Whether it's in that left winger position where he's able to really, play like Iniesta in a sense, where he's just able to really look at those half spaces and have that incredible vision to see the lines and really break the lines. You have him in that position, but you also can have him as an interior, where he drops much deeper, receives the ball from his own half, and just drives at you. He is one of the most unique players in the world, and that's just what makes him a really effective player. But you know what else is really incredible for Fermin Lopez? It's his mentality. Now, people are not going to value this, but if you think about it, if you're a talent in La Masia, you're just one of 100 of talented players with different qualities. The thing that makes or breaks this player is their mentality. Riqui Puig was arguably a bigger talent, but failed at the club after numerous years. And this was not even necessarily based on his on-the-field performances. Remember, Koeman tried him, Valverde tried him, Quique Setien tried him, and Xavi himself also gave him a chance. But is it really that much of a coincidence that all 4 managers felt that he just wasn't that good of a player off the field to actually play him? It's not really that simple, right? We also look at his performances that led him to go to the MLS. Not that many big teams in Europe really wanted him, and he had to go straight to the MLS. What is this a sign of? It shows that even if you have the talent, which he clearly did, you were just not going to make it at the top. So really saying that Fermin Lopez is just going to go straight to the top is going to be an overstatement, but with his mentality of training properly and having a really good background with good family support, which we know he does with his parents, you have a right environment to succeed. And this is something that we must really take care of with this player. Because we know with Pedri, he comes from a really humble family, which is what's really keeping him grounded all this time. With Gavi, it's the same thing. Really good family support, really good structure around the club, and loves the club from a very young age as well. And if Fermin Lopez has this as well, there's no doubt that he has a lot of chances to succeed as long as his performances on the field prove to be that. But considering all of these factors, the important question remains, is he really a KDB regen for Barcelona, and how does he fit into this team? Because sure, he's starting now, but once players like Gavi come back and once Frankie comes back as well, they'll have both of them, plus Gundogan as well in those advanced positions. But the answer really lies against low blocks and in attacking positions. Fermin is capable of playing as an interior against low blocks. We saw this against Mallorca, who was making those runs into the box, and he was our sole attacking threat, despite coming on as a substitute. If you've noticed Barcelona over the last couple of years, especially recently as well, we just struggle to break down low blocks. And why is this? It's because first of all, we don't have enough attacking threats. We have the likes of Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati in the past who are attacking threats. They're both really good when it comes to ball striking, but what are they lacking? They're lacking that creativity. We have Joao Felix now, who's good, but super inconsistent, and you have Rafinha, who just can't dribble, but is a creative output. We just don't have a player that can have all of these different factors put together, and that's where Fermin Lopez comes in.